This is the Black Agenda Morning Shot being brought to you by Kylie Akuno in Atlanta, Georgia, for Monday, October 25th. I'm interviewing Jack Bryson, who's a member of the Service Employees International Union in Oakland, California, and the father of two of the witnesses to the murder of Oscar Grant, which occurred in Oakland, California in January 2009. So Jack, welcome to the Black Agenda Morning Report. Could you briefly give us a recap of the demonstration on Saturday, October 23rd in Oakland, California, for Oscar Grant, called by the International Longshore and Workhouse Union Local 10? Could you give us a little recap?
Okay. Yesterday it was about 2,500, maybe 3,000 people out there. It was also raining. The weather was pretty bad yesterday, and a lot of people stuck it out. The thing about it was unions from all over Northern California that supported this. There was also a lot of people from the community. There was people from all walks of life that were there to support Oscar Grant. And a lot of speakers. Elaine Brown was there. Richard Brown from the San Francisco A. Bobby Seals spoke. It was just a powerful testimonies yesterday. And I also introduced the family members of Oscar Grant, my sons who were with Oscar Grant. They were his friends the night he was murdered. And it got real emotional when I introduced Oscar Grant's daughter, Tatiana Grant. And it was a peaceful demonstration. It was real positive. It was emotional too. Everything you could think of.
Going back, you mentioned your two sons. Could you please, share with our audience the experience of your sons, Jackie and Nigel, and some of the other folks who were there that night that Oscar Grant was murdered? Share with our audience just what happened, so people, clearly understand the depth of what occurred.
Okay, my two sons grew up with Oscar Grant, along with several of the other young men that were there with Oscar Grant, and they went there. They went to San Francisco. Typical young men just to go to San Francisco for New Year's Eve and have a good time. And it was Oscar that said, "Let's go back. Let's go back home." And they caught the BART train, and they were on the train laughing, joking around. The little scuffle broke out. It got broken up, and everyone went back to having fun, joking around. And who would think 10 minutes later that your friend would be murdered by a BART police officer or a police officer in general? My oldest son, Jackie, he was right next to Oscar Grant when they murdered him, and my other son was on the left of his brother, along with Michael Greer, Carlos Reyes, and June. They were all taken to jail, but Oscar also had his friends, John Tu, Chris, the mother of his child was there that night, and Jamil. Oscar was murdered by Johannes Besley. After he was murdered, they were these young men, including my two sons, were taken to jail for 6 hours. They were handcuffed for 6 hours. Some of them were punched, and some of these officers even celebrated the death of Oscar Grant. They were giving each other high fives. They were joking around, like they just made a fraternity. Every time a police officer kills a young black or brown young man, mostly black, these police officers celebrated. Like now they belong to a fraternity. They got their badge for doing this. And it's emotional talking about it, but it's just you think of Emmett Till, you think of what they did to Fred Hampton, even Steve Biko. That's how far it goes. And the same thing happened to Oscar Grant.
Could you share with us, Jack, how this particular rally came to being? That the ILWU called this rally, and could you share with us the importance, for organized labor to be involved in struggles against police brutality and murder?
Yeah, what had happened is I was in Los Angeles for the whole trial, and what I was witnessing is that every police officer and every police expert that took that stand committed perjury. They put Oscar Grant on trial. They put my son Jackie on trial because he was the key witness. They were on trial, not Johannes Mesley. And the whole trial was just, you could see the racism, starting with picking an all-white jury. And so what happened when the verdict came out of involuntary manslaughter, I sat in the courtroom and I was stung. I couldn't believe it. So when we were coming out the courtroom, I called my friend Jack Heyman, and we were talking about the sentencing. And I asked Jack, I said, Jack, this can't go away, you got to help me, and he said, what do you want me to do? I said, can you help me organize the unions? Because the politicians aren't going to help us, the council members aren't going to help us, no one's going to help us. So can you please, I pleaded with him to help me organize all unions, so come November 5th, that this judge will know that not only is it a community that's affected by this, but it's also working labor that's affected by this. And Jack stepped the game up, and we took it from there.
All right. So the last piece I just want to ask you briefly is, what are the next steps in the struggle for justice for Oscar Grant? We know the hearing, the sentencing rather, is going to come down on November 5th. And I think many of us unfortunately expect that to be a light sentencing, so we definitely don't expect the struggle to be over. So what are some of the next steps that, folks are organizing and planning?
Right now we're organizing for November 5th for the sentencing. I think about that every night. My mind runs like a projector, like what is next? And hopefully, I know we probably won't get what we want, so we have to organize so the Department of Justice, if we don't get what we want, we have to organize so the Department of Justice will step in. A lot of these young men in Oscar's civil rights were violated. Not only was Oscar murdered, but there was a hate crime committed on him. Right before Oscar was murdered, he was called a nigger 3 times by that police officer, Tony Peroni. His civil rights was violated. We want the Department of Justice to step in just as they stepped in for Michael Vick. When Michael Vick, they say he killed all these dogs, every local agency stepped in, and they were trying to give this man life. So the attention that they gave Michael Vick, the Department of Justice, they should be giving it for Oscar Grant, who was murdered by a police officer on video. So that's what we have to do. We have to organize and put pressure on the Department of Justice to make sure that Oscar Grant gets justice.
All right. Thank you, Jack. Going to sign off for now. Appreciate you being with us. And we're going to stick with this, as this develops, and try to help out in any way we can. So we'll stay informed and stay in touch and keep bringing folks out in who are viewing these morning shots and are regularly reading the Black Agenda Report, updates on what's happening in this critical struggle.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me.
All right.
Thank you.
So this is the Black Agenda Morning Shot being brought to you by Kylie Akuno, bringing you some news that you can use. Signing off.